Hello and welcome to the first of what I hope will be many card readings that I will make on this channel. Today's reading is inspired by these beautiful playing cards. They are made by Svora Animal Shelter, and I will link them down below in the description. Now, these are regular playing cards. But I actually started reading with regular playing cards and then gradually moved on to tarot. So if you're experienced with tarot, you can actually read very easily in a regular deck by just looking at the corresponding suits. However, these cards are very beautiful and very detailed on their own, so we will kind of be reading them today more intuitively. Today we have 4 piles, as you can see. Pile number 1, represented with this silly little clown cat. Pile number 2, represented with this, I think this was yellow Aventurine, crystal cat. She's sitting down, she's very chill. Pile number 3, represented by this fun Cuban toy cat. And pile number 4, represented with this green pin of the goddess Bast, who's actually joining us today, but she's off screen, so you cannot see her. So you can choose your pile any way that you wish to, if you feel especially drawn to one, or if you feel especially drawn to more. There might be messages coming through in there for you. However, since this is a general reading, it won't probably perfectly fit your situation down to the T. So, as always, take what resonates with you, use your discernment, and don't let the rest take from you. Hi! So, if you chose this silly little clown cat, or were drawn to pile number 1, this will be the reading for you today. What feline wisdom can you benefit from today? So let's see. Bast, what would you like to say to pile number 1 today? Just see if everything's in frame. No, it's not. Okay, we'll have to put it a little bit like this. So the staff of the Celtic cross became nunchucks of the Celtic cross, but that's okay. And these will scoot a little bit like so. Okay. First of all, I would say I'm talking to someone who is in the midst of a shift. And I would say probably in the midst of a very big psychological, spiritual, energetical shift. Because we have both of the little portal cards, one at the back of your deck and one actually in your current obstacle. So I would say that what's happening here is you're leveling up, but I don't think that you feel like you're leveling up. I think you feel kind of like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and it feels like you're very exhausted from all this change. And some of this change might be happening on a level that is conscious. You might be consciously trying to break free from some limiting beliefs, to break free from some patterns of behavior. Just a few examples I can say right off the dome. You may have recently ended something that you realized was bad for you, but you don't feel good about that quite yet. So maybe you exited a relationship that was draining you, or a friendship that was making you feel like somebody you don't want to be, or you quit a habit, or you're being more mindful of a habit that you know is bad for you. And you likely might feel that, oh, I did this good thing, so I should feel good about that. Why am I not yet feeling good about that? Like, you've been a very, very brave little girl, and where's your treat? Well, the treat actually, maybe you don't want to hear this, but the treat is already in the fact that you made this shift. Something that I have to say immediately, I don't think you give yourself enough credit for making this change, for making this shift, no matter what it is in your case. Maybe you see it as something that was just like the logical conclusion, the logical next step. Like, well, if my screen time is 10 hours every day and I'm waking up with migraines every day, of course I'm gonna install an app that limits my Instagram consumption, for example. Or if this person called me something really horrible to my face, of course I'm gonna walk away. But still, it's important to recognize, or I don't know, if this job that I have is making me wake up in cold sweat every night and is giving me nightmares and rashes on my skin, like, of course I'm gonna quit. But I think you're selling yourself short, likely because this is something that has been draining you for a very long time. And now that you're finally free of it, you don't really have the energy to see it for what it is. And what it is a big shift. It's a big step towards yourself. It's a big step towards your goals. It's a big step towards, I can say, getting home to self, in whatever way that means for you. And it's likely that maybe you're still a little bit in that kind of survival mode mindset of, let me just get away from this. I don't have time to celebrate. I don't have time to, pat myself on the back because there's still so much to do. There's still so much distance I need to create for myself. Maybe you just started down a path of sobriety, for example, and maybe you're telling yourself, oh, I can't celebrate 7 days sober. That's too little. I have to at least make it to a month or 2 months or 3 months, and then that's something worthy of celebrating. But you're not doing yourself any favors there, because it's already such a big deal to do what you did, to make that decision, to make that shift. Even if it's just, maybe you're watching this and you're saying now, like, well, I haven't made any kind of change. I haven't made any decision like that. But maybe you, for example, if you're smoking, maybe you made the decision to quit smoking in the new year. If you're watching this when it's uploaded, that means New Year's of some, I don't know, 20-ish off days away. So technically you haven't quit smoking, that's true, but maybe you made the decision that is more stable and concrete now than it ever was before. And this is also what I mean when I say this shift might be something that hasn't yet manifested in the physical reality exactly in the way that you expect it to look like. But the shift is definitely has already occurred in your subconscious. It's already occurred in your energy. And this shift of your subconscious mindset will slowly and gradually permeate through the surface of your being and thus start reflecting in the outer world as well. So one thing that I would say first of all is that you definitely should, maybe you don't have to celebrate yourself in some big and grandiose way, but at least, share it as good news with someone that you love and trust. Give yourself that props. Just let it be known that this is a big thing that you have done. You have taken the first step. And sure, maybe when you envision this goal, whatever this is that requires you to shift your beliefs about yourself, about the world, about your life, whatever this goal is, maybe you envision it like 300 steps down the line. And so you're looking at yourself after taking this first step and being like, what is this? Like, this isn't anything. I didn't do anything here. But you did, because it's often the first step that's the hardest. And the first step is the most difficult one to take, because once you kind of take that one step, the momentum can already start to build. Whereas if you're completely inert, it takes more force to make the first step, to make the first push. And that's why I think you should celebrate it. Again, not in a grand, flashy way, but just to give yourself that props. And I would actually even feel called to compare the cards of advice. As you can see, the totally comfortable queen, she is relaxed, she is stretching, she probably just had a really good nap, and now she's gonna go and do something delicious and enjoyable. And now let's contrast that to the signifier. He's just a silly little guy, he can even maybe say, oh, I'm just a clown, He's confused. He doesn't look very comfortable. Certainly doesn't look as comfortable as she does. Maybe this is more what you kind of see yourself as right now, after maybe taking this first step or making this kind of shy, still inside thought decision to do this big thing, or to quit this thing, or to walk away from this thing, or to shift from this thing, whatever this thing is for you. And it's all right to feel like you have no idea what's going on and where you're going when you're just taking the first step. And it's all right to have the thought of like where you want to end up. But if that thought of where you want to end up is 358 steps down the road, that might just make you feel bad by comparison, because you're just going to be looking at, how would I say? You might just be looking at that end goal and comparing it to your current situation, and the difference between them being so huge that it just makes you feel bad for where you are now, when in fact you should feel really, really good about where you are now, because it's the first initial seed of, I want to do something different. I want to choose me. And that one step, that one decision it's a huge stepping stone towards something great. And it's kind of like, if you don't really celebrate it now, or at least maybe the word celebrate is putting you off. Maybe I'm getting something that kind of deals with self-esteem. Maybe you don't feel comfortable celebrating yourself or celebrating this that you have done, because it feels just like it's too grand for you. It's too much for you to accept. Maybe you don't feel deserving of this. Maybe it's like, well, anybody would have done the same, which not necessarily. But if it makes you feel uncomfortable, if it's too far for you to envision yourself as this comfy, stretchy queen, that's okay. But then don't use the word celebrate. Use something smaller and more easily digestible, such as give props to yourself. Just give yourself the recognition. And it can be it can be something as small as maybe you hit a little milestone on Duolingo. Share that as a story. Who cares? It's going to be up there for 24 hours. Most people that see it as a story are going to be like, oh, cool, that's fun. Some of them are probably just going to keep scrolling and not think about it, because maybe they're looking for different kind of content. Maybe some will think oh shit, this person posted their 30-day streak. That's cool. I wonder what language they're learning. Or oh, that reminds me, I haven't been on Duolingo for a long time, or something like that. But I guarantee you absolutely nobody will be thinking, look at this, stuck up. Let's not use an inappropriate word. I don't know how many of those I am allowed to have per YouTube video. But I'm sure nobody will think oh, look at this person. They think that they're all that. Wow, 30-day streak, whoop-de-doo. My streak is 800 days. You're not even on my level. And even if they do think that, they're not thinking that, them thinking that doesn't mean that you're a clown. It doesn't mean that you should have just, kept it to yourself. That means that they have insecurities of their own that they're projecting on you, and that maybe maybe they're jealous of you. Maybe they're jealous of you, wow, look at them celebrating their small milestone while I have to, push myself and torture myself until I achieve something great that I deem worthy of celebrating, by which time I'm completely burnt out and miserable and unhappy. So unhappy, in fact, that I can't celebrate somebody else's small victories. So you celebrating your small wins is something that you do for you. Why it's important to celebrate yourself, again, let's say to give yourself props, to give yourself a pat on the back, maybe even a literal pat on the back, or say to someone that you've had an achievement that you're proud of, share it with someone, write it in your journal, print out a little picture, and stick it to your vision board, whatever. It's not so that other people can see your success. It's not even so other people can see what you're doing and what your path is. It's not even so that you could show to yourself, oh, I guess this is my path now. It's actually why it's important to celebrate, to give props, to give recognition to yourself, even for the smallest of wins, is because every time you do that, you're rewiring your brain to see this victory as something worthwhile. And like we started this reading with, you probably don't yet feel very good about any of this that you are shifting and achieving. It's because it takes some time for the energy to catch up, and it takes some time to rewire your brain. But every time that you celebrate or give props to yourself for any kind of small win, and it can be anything that's taking you closer on this goal. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you want to become an artist and you want to, I don't know, design characters for video games. And so one little step towards that goal would be drawing more regularly. Every time that you give yourself props for that, you are reaffirming to your brain, to literally your physical, the fatty flesh in your skull, you're reaffirming that this is important, this is worthwhile, and I am going after this. But even when we're not talking about this main kind of goal, main shift that you are like working towards, even if you give yourself props for any other unrelated little win that you did, that can be like literally to the level of you went to get coffee at a coffee shop and you asked them to put oat milk, and they didn't make it with oat milk. They gave you cow milk instead. And maybe you don't like confrontation, you maybe have social anxiety, and the old you would have just let it slide, and maybe you would have paid for the coffee anyway and then went out and either spilled it or drank it and then had a massive tummy ache afterwards. But maybe the new you, this very shy, still confused new you, and that's totally fine, there's nothing wrong with that, would actually have the courage to say, even if in a very shaky voice, like, I'm sorry, actually, I asked for oat milk and this is cow. And then the guy might give you a look of like, really? And you might feel really bad about that. You might even want to start like justifying yourself and say like, oh, but no, cow milk really hurts me, I shouldn't drink it, and this and that. And he might begrudgingly make you the oat milk coffee that you wanted originally. And you might walk away from that interaction not feeling good at all, not feeling like a sense of, wow, I did something good, I stood up for myself, and none of that, but just feeling like, oh, I should have just kept my mouth shut, I should have just not said anything, now that guy hates me, I made his job harder, and all of those things that like maybe you were conditioned to think and maybe make up your old belief system or belief patterns. That's where it's really important that you come in and say, maybe I feel bad right now, maybe I don't feel good about this yet, but I know that it was the right decision to put myself first here, to stand up for myself and to speak up for what I need. Maybe I feel really bad. Maybe I feel like I made that guy's job harder, which is just one coffee. You probably didn't make it much harder, but it's understandable that you might feel that way. I might feel like this, but it's still a good thing that I chose to honor my needs. And now I won't have a tummy ache later, which is also a bonus. And when you say this thing to yourself, I also suggest saying it out loud. because your mind can think like 1,000 things at the same time, but your mouth can only say one thing at a time. So if you say it out loud, it demands more attention from your brain, and it focuses all the attention on that one train of thought that you're saying. So I really suggest, I talk to myself all the time, sometimes even in the street. Sometimes people think I'm talking to them and then turn around and see me in a full-on conversation. So it's not, I think it should be more accepted societally than it is. But you saying those words in that moment, and especially if you're saying them out loud or if you're writing them in a journal, just something that is like drawing the attention of your brain to that is slowly rewiring your brain to start believing, okay, so I'm allowed to advocate for my needs. I'm allowed to choose my needs and preferences, even if it feels like I'm inconveniencing someone. I'm allowed to do things that are good for me, even if they don't really feel too great in the moment. And what this will do is each time that you do it, it's not like each time will be a bit easier, but it kind of stacks, you know? So like if you stand up to the waiter like 5 times, those 5 times will not feel very good, but the 6th time that you do it afterwards will feel better. And then the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th time that you do it, it's still gonna be a little bit iffy, but then the 11th time that you do it is gonna feel even better. And then slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly, you're building these foundations. And actually, in both the card of what you don't expect and the card of your current situation, we have both are 4s, and 4 being the number of setting good foundations, setting all the 4 corners, right? So in all of these little tiny wins, little tiny choices that you make with your highest good in mind, and thus afterwards giving yourself props for doing that in whatever way is comfortable and achievable, attainable, let's say, for you, you're setting these good bases. You're setting the base for literally in your body, in your nervous system, also in your brain, in your neural pathways. You're setting the good base for this change to slowly start to take more and more shape in your external reality. And if you keep this up, keep this work of like trying to choose what you know is in your best interest, even if it feels very bad in the moment, and to honor yourself, to give yourself props for making that choice, even if the choice feels really small and inconsequential, you are putting down this strong base so that in like a year, when you look back, you will be somebody different. Not necessarily somebody like completely different, how we see those like glow up videos of like, oh, I used to be the most, I don't know, like sad, abused, tortured person, and now I'm the most extroverted, life of the party kind of person. Not necessarily, it's not necessarily a shift to becoming someone completely different, but you are going down this path of becoming somebody who is much more comfortable being themselves. Somebody who maybe doesn't feel the need to apologize for being who they are, who doesn't feel that their very existence is like letting people down in some way. And so I'm not saying that like, if you keep this up in the next year, you're gonna be like influencer, social media, like persona or something completely different like that. But you will feel much more at peace Like you will feel much more like where you are is good, and who you are is also good, because you were put on this earth as you so that you could be you. And slowly, maybe you will start to remove all of the, judgments and unfair, unfair estimates that other people have placed on you, and start to kind of shift your perspective back to that internal sense of validation of like, yes, maybe that waiter or now thinks, or barista, sorry, not waiter, that barista now thinks I'm kind of a prick because now he has to make a second coffee for me. But I know that I did nothing wrong by asking for that. And that shift will allow you to be more of who you are in a way that's like grounded and patient and unafraid. The last thing I want to say, and these two I can kind of interpret two ways. So when I said take what resonates and don't let the rest take from you, please keep that in mind. What I see here are kind of two options. So I think what you are going towards is some kind of proof in the physical realm that you're on the right path. Maybe you're hoping for this proof to happen like, oh, sorry, let me just check if we're still going. Yes, we are. Maybe you're hoping for this proof to come sooner and in a really flashy, obvious way so that you can very clearly see it as a sign that you're doing well and not have to worry about it anymore. But sadly, it doesn't really go like that. So I see this in the first instance, I see it as you will be offered some kind of opportunity. And now this can be anything pertaining to like how it will manifest in your reality, your physical reality. Like if you're walking away from a job in this situation, it could be a job offer. If you're walking away from a friendship or relationship, it could be an offer of a new person entering your life. If you are if this is inner healing, self-work that you're working on, it could be some kind of situation that presents you the opportunity to show kind of the growth, not to anybody else, but to yourself. So for example, I don't know, it could be someone, maybe you are going home for the holidays and your parents used to really trigger you, and they would always make you revert back to your like teenage self, where you would end up screaming at their provocations and just losing your mind. But this time, you might be coming to the place where they still provoke you. You still feel that like anger or sadness, or you still feel the emotion well up. But this time you choose to respond differently. This time maybe you choose to take deep breaths to calm yourself and not to explode at their provocation. Maybe previously, if your parents would or family members would trigger you in this way, you would later just cry yourself to sleep or cry in the bathroom. And maybe this time you will also do that, but you will add some form of like self-nourishment through that or afterwards or something like that. So I'm feeling that you wish for this proof that you're on the right path to be really big. I'm not sensing that it will be very big. And that's why it's important, if you're already nurturing this habit of like celebrating the small wins, to notice even if it's a small proof, even if it's just a small piece, like, okay, yeah, maybe what my aunt said about my life path still triggered me. Maybe I still had to excuse myself and still had to go cry in the bathroom. But at least I, held my hand through it, or I gave myself a hug through it, or afterwards I made myself a nice cup of tea and a little treat to kind of nurture myself after that, which hurt me. So just to kind of see that it's still a win. And if it's some kind of, some of the other situations of it's an offer of a job, it's an offer of a new person, I see you being kind of afraid. Like you're, I mean, look at him. I see you being afraid. I see you feeling not really ready to kind of go for it. And in that situation, this is what I mean when I say I see it twofold. Either you will dare, you will dare to kind of shyly step out from behind that plant and go towards this can of tuna. I think even, you can't really see it, but even his, oh, maybe you can. Even his little eyes are looking directly at the can of tuna. So it might be something, something nice, something enticing, but the fear is kind of the thing that's blocking you. So it might be something that's really enticing, but the fear is kind of pulling you to stay hidden behind your plant, like down in your comfort zone. If you dare to go for this, I feel it's very important to say that no matter how this turns out, that you give yourself that props for stepping out of the comfort zone and going after what you want. Even if, you do step out from behind your plant and you walk over and then, the family dog clamps down on the tuna can and drags it away, and you don't get any tuna in the end, it's still important to give yourself props for going after it. I can give an example. A friend of mine, she was kind of interested in this one, let's say, public figure kind of person. Not very famous, but a public figure nonetheless. And she felt called to send him a message, to send him like a specific little text. Just kind of like shoot her shot, but in more of like a friendly, interpersonal way. And she felt really afraid of doing that and tried to find like, because the brain will always find reasons to keep you in the comfort zone because it's safest there. But you weren't really born to be safe. You were born to experience life. So she was trying to find all these ways to stop herself for, well, is it cringe to do? Is it lame? Will he think it's weird? And all of that. But in the end, she made the choice, even though she was very afraid, she made the choice to shoot her shot and send him that message. And she was feeling very afraid of what the consequence might be, how it might turn out, etc. And now I think this guy at this point was going through like a really rough time mentally. So he did respond to her, but in a way that kind of didn't really lead to anything further. And that's what I mean when I say like maybe what she was hoping for, maybe her can of tuna, was that he would think the message was really witty and charming and that he would be smitten and write her back and that they would start talking and that something would like start from that. But even if that didn't happen, she still celebrated the fact that she shot her shot. Because that is a small win for her, regardless of if it leads to the ultimate thing that she's hoping for or not. And it's a win because it still got her out of her comfort zone, and it still was a choice that she made to be brave and do the scary thing. And no matter if it worked out or not, how she had hoped, she was still brave and did the scary thing. So that's what I'm feeling called to say, that like, if you do decide to go for it, like, absolutely remember to give yourself props for it no matter what happens. Maybe you apply to, I don't know, exhibit your art at a gallery that you really like, and maybe they shoot you down. You still sent that application. You still quivered in your boots writing that, and you sent it. And then maybe you paced very nervously around your room for the next 4 hours, but you still did it. You chose to honor your wishes, your desires, no matter the fear. And if they shoot you down, that doesn't mean that it's a wasted opportunity, because you still, just by doing it, you're rewiring your brain, like we said here. And kind of the second thing, I guess it's a perfect segue for the second way that I see this. If you go for it and get rejected, or it doesn't work out how you had hoped, or in the other case, if the fear proves to still be too great and you don't go for it and you let the opportunity pass you by, the second way I kind of see this little guy is that he's relapsing. You know, that he's relapsing back into that negative self-talk, into that guilt mindset, that he goes back to the thing that, you know, he knows he shouldn't be munching on this plant, but he's still doing it. So just be mindful of that if it doesn't turn out how you had hoped, don't take it as a reason to beat yourself up. Don't take it as proof that you should give up that dream that you're chasing. You know, your wins can be your wins, no matter what anybody outside thinks about them. To go back to that analogy of maybe you want to design video game characters, and maybe you spent months and months building up a portfolio of characters and designs, and you see that there's an opening for your, I don't know, favorite indie video game company, and you think this is it, this is fated. I was just building this portfolio, and now there's an opening there, and that means that I'm gonna get it. And then you send it, and then maybe you don't get it. Don't take that as proof of like, oh, so it wasn't fated, and I should give all of this up because this is proof that it won't work out. Because if it was fated, I would have gotten it. But you don't know that, because the world is way too vast in all its complexities for just one human mind. Because maybe, yeah, you miss that opportunity, but if you give up there, you won't see that maybe a smaller other indie studio that maybe wasn't your first choice is also looking for a character designer. And if you don't give up, then you might send your portfolio, which you were building up all this time, yeah, for that one specific company, but you still have it. You still have that portfolio that you can send it to another company. Maybe they accept you. Maybe the people there are much nicer and kinder and better colleagues than they would have been at the first place. But you won't know that if you decide to, you know, relapse back into your comfort zone, to go back to like, nah, I tried, I put my one foot forward and it didn't work out and I'm done. Don't do that. Just keep going. Because again, even if you're not, even if you won't get the second thing that you wanted, either maybe it will be the 12th or the 23rd. But again, by getting these rejections and these failures, quote unquote, you're again rewiring your brain that if you keep going after the failure becomes less scary after a few times. And you're again rewiring your brain to stop seeing it as a failure and to start seeing it as, wow, I tried, it didn't work out. I still tried, so I'm gonna try the next time, and I'm gonna try the next time, and the new place, etc. And if you don't go after anything at all, if you still feel too afraid to apply to the dream job, to text your dream crush, to write the letter to, I don't know, your favorite author or something, and if the opportunity passes you by, again, be mindful of falling back into the place of guilt and beating yourself up for like, oh, I should have taken it, I should have done it, I should have applied for the job, and now it's passed me by, and I tried so hard to be brave, but I'm just a coward, and I'm never gonna leave this comfort zone. And because that narrative, it doesn't serve you in any way that allows for your growth. The only thing that narrative serves is to solidify your current, let's say, neural pathways that are maybe rooted in fear and a need to self-protect. And it serves to validate your feelings of guilt, because you know that you should have gone for it, and now you feel bad. And now maybe if you beat yourself up about it enough, you're gonna be doing at least something good, because by beating yourself up, you prove that it's wrong. But that's so, you really, it's just spending a lot of energy, and it's not getting you any closer to growing, to shifting. It's not setting down healthy roots that you want in your base for the new life that you're going towards. Because if beating yourself up worked, it would have worked by now. So if it's not working, then you can do something else. And if the fear was still too strong enough to keep you from trying to go after the thing that you want, whatever it may be, that doesn't mean that you're a coward. That simply means that the fear is still too strong. And how to go about that is by, very simply, that just means that you need more of the small wins to get yourself more wind in your sails. Because if the fear is still too large, then you just need to add more courage and self-belief. And the way that you add more courage and self-belief is by, again, circling back to the beginning, celebrating your small wins, giving yourself the props for when you're doing something right, for when no matter how small, because those things stack up and over time will help you to feel more secure and more stable in yourself, even when there is a huge fear present. So just go for it, be kind to yourself, do something to step out of your comfort zone in the smallest of ways, consistently, and just give yourself props when you do. That's what I have for you today. I hope this helped, and just shine on. Hello. So if you chose pile 2 or the signifier of the yellow Aventurine Cuban Cat, this will be the reading for you. So let's see. Bast, what feline wisdom would you impart on pile 2 today? What feline wisdom do you have to share with pile 2? Okay, let me just check if everything's in frame. Yes, it is. Okay. Okay, well, first of all, I'm seeing this whole story, like the thing that I very clearly see is like maybe a very specific story. So I will first lay out this whole specific story, and then I will try to interpret in a more general way, seeing how perhaps this story doesn't really resonate with everybody. So I'm seeing a kind of friend group drama happening here. I'm seeing like maybe you and 2 other people used to be a kind of trio, a kind of inseparable group, or you were very close, or you kind of did everything together. But something happened to shake that up. Something happened. Either some news broke out, or some, long buried truth, or some secrets came out. Or just some situation happened to like shake everything up, leading to hostility to happen. In this kind of story, I see that maybe these 2 people who were part of this trio with you kind of turned on you. Maybe it was always kind of the vibe that they were a little bit closer together between each other than they were to you. And maybe that's something that you were always aware of. Maybe I'm getting, for example, okay, I'll I want to say 3 things at once. Main thing is, in this kind of narrative, in this story unfolding, I think that you wanted to keep quiet on something. Like maybe you knew some less than favorable secret about one of these 2 people and their dealings, maybe behind each other's backs, maybe behind your back, maybe against the 3rd person. But you, in your wanting to be the bigger person, you didn't say your piece. It feels like you kind of kept your voice back so that you wouldn't maybe ruffle any feathers. Maybe you didn't want to make a problem for somebody. But it was actually this holding back of your voice, of the truth of what you know, uh, that has created the opportunity for the two of them, or either of them, to not give you the same courtesy back. And maybe they kind of seize that opportunity of your silence to themselves start a rumor about you, to paint you in a bad light, to turn other people against you, which has led to you kind of being labeled as this outcast. Or it has led you to becoming, you know, the butt of the joke in the friend group. It has maybe unfairly marked you as, you know, the bad person in this story. And I don't want to say, I mean, it's not necessarily that like you are completely 100% an angel on earth, innocent from all drama, and they are just, you know, weaving webs of lies against you. But it does feel like you wanted to be the bigger person. You wanted to do the right thing of not, you know, not engaging with the drama, not fueling the rumor mill. But they didn't extend you the same courtesy back, and instead kind of did the opposite and used the opportunity of your silence to point a finger at you. And in this version of this story, which is very specific, concerning like a friend group, where, as we said, maybe some news came out, maybe some truth was revealed that led people to kind of get defensive and get aggressive against one another, in which you wanted to turn out to be the bigger person, and then ended up kind of with everybody against you for that, maybe for being the most honest one in the narrative. For that very specific story, the advice is just to move on, like leave this friend group behind. And I can pick up also on a story of like, maybe you yourself are like a misfit. Maybe you yourself feel like, excuse me, like you're kind of weird, you're an outcast, you know, maybe you were just happy to belong anywhere. And so maybe this was kind of the reason for your silence. Not necessarily on just like one specific matter, but like maybe once you started noticing that like, oh, my friends really aren't so kind when they speak about one another behind their backs, or, you know, they don't really treat everybody as kindly as I would expect, or, you know, maybe it's a kind of like tough love friend group where, you know, they'll say that we just take jokes at each other's expense, but somehow the jokes are always at your expense, or something like that, where you may have noticed already before that there were like incompatibilities with you and this group of people, this friend group, but you just wanted to be a part of something. And so you kind of purposefully looked away from that, hoping that, you know, if you turn a blind eye to it, maybe it's not gonna, maybe it will kind of work itself out. Maybe you are like a little bit of gaslighting yourself, thinking that like, oh, I'm just overreacting and stuff like that. So the advice is just to like, it's hard sometimes to let go, even if we know that like the people are not right for us in a relationship, in a friendship, in a friend group, no matter what situation it is, because we're afraid of being alone, and we we're afraid that like if, you know, at least these people are kind of fulfilling my need of escaping loneliness, so like how bad can it be, right? But if you're feeling lonely even next to someone, then it really is better to be alone. Because if you're alone in your own company, there are things you can do to change that. There are ways that you can go about to kind of elevate your alone time to be, you know, more fulfilling, to be more worthwhile, to be more like strengthening the relationship with yourself. Whereas if you feel alone next to someone, and maybe if you communicate that, maybe if you let them know that, if they don't meet you halfway, then there's nothing you can really do to change that. Like if you're feeling alone next to someone, next to a friend, next to a partner or in a group of friends, and if you communicate this, or if you communicate that, you know, maybe you're always there when they have a problem and they need to vent and they just want to talk to somebody, but they're never there for you when you need that. Or just the kind of sense of, are we always doing what they want to do? Are we always going to the places they want to go? Am I being heard? If you communicate that, the only way it can be resolved is if the other person in that relationship also hears you, for starters, and wants to move towards you in that sense. Maybe saying, you know, I'm sorry that you felt this way. I'm sorry that something I did made you feel that way. Maybe, you know, it wasn't my intention, but it still wasn't very nice. And what can I do moving forward? I'm yawning like crazy. What can I do moving forward to be a better friend to you? Or what would you like me to do? Or I will try to be a better friend to you. And then they follow through. That's the third most important part. Like that it's not just empty words that they say and make you feel better in the moment, but then they actually follow through with putting in effort that you can see in trying to accommodate you. And, you know, for some, I think a situation like this might be resolved through that, you know, trying to communicate and trying to let your feelings be known. In any case, it never can hurt to speak your truth. Like it won't feel good in the moment, or if you're speaking your truth to someone who doesn't even know what their truth sounds like, they're gonna make you feel bad about it. They're gonna make you feel like you're asking for too much, like you're ungrateful, like you're this and that. But no matter how you might feel about that in the moment, it's important to remember that anytime that you do speak your truth and like kind of advocate for your needs and feelings, especially if that's something that you struggle with, every time that you do that, you are kind of strengthening the bond to yourself. You are showing yourself on a literal example that, you know, I'm sticking up for what matters, and what matters in this moment is my needs that I feel are not being met. And, you know, that doesn't have to, if you communicate your needs in a way that's like speaking your truth, if you do it calmly, it doesn't have to lead to a confrontation. If it always leads to a confrontation when you try to communicate your needs, then maybe you're communicating to someone who doesn't know how to communicate, which, you know, depending on how old you are watching this video, at some point, like all the wounds that we carry that were never our fault, that we got them, they do become our responsibility to heal. So, you know, if you're, I don't know, if you're 15 and you don't really know how to communicate well yet, that's kind of fine because you're still young. But if you're 35 and you don't know how to communicate well, then that's a little bit on you at this point. Because, you know, Google is free. You can look up so much material on therapy, on communication skills, on ways to phrase things, etc. But I'm getting a little bit off track. So back to this situation where I do feel like for the majority of people who resonate with this kind of situation, of this friend group that's kind of like maybe slowly been showing you consistently that they're not really good friends, and you choosing to kind of keep yourself silent on that matter because it's like better any kind of friends than no friends at all, right? The advice for you really is just to walk away. No matter how hard it might be. And not necessarily, again, in like a super grandiose end all be all kind of way where you like drop a bomb in the group chat and then exit and block it or something. But just to like pull yourself back from these people. You know, just to kind of limit their influence on you. Because, for example, let's give an example. Maybe you are a person that really likes gymnastics, for example. I don't know why gymnastics, but maybe you like gymnastics. And maybe you are kind of training and you want to be a professional athlete one day. Or you have some kind of goal towards that. And maybe that, because that is important to you, that includes that you will, you know, go to bed early and get up early and go to training. And obviously, if you're training, I feel like I'm talking to somebody younger here, so I think this, some of you might really recognize yourselves here. And maybe that includes that you are not, you know, drunk or hungover on your trainings because you need to be in the best physical condition. And so because that's what's important to you, maybe you don't drink, maybe you don't smoke, for example. And maybe you have this friend or friend group or just a group of people around you that maybe were also kind of into that dream at one point, but now have kind of let it slide or set it down. Maybe they're not as interested in pursuing gymnastics as you all were together at one point. And maybe now they started drinking, they started smoking, they started going out and partying. And they're kind of pushing you to do that with them. And maybe because, you know, you still care about gymnastics, you still want to train, you still want to have a healthy lifestyle that supports that, you are kind of hesitant to, you know, surrender to their pressure. But instead of, you know, being accepting of that and trying to meet you halfway in recognizing that, okay, this is still something that's really important to you, we should respect that, we should honor that. Maybe, you know, sometimes you can join us at the club and, I don't know, have a Coca-Cola Um, but other times we will accommodate you and meet earlier and go to a nice little coffee shop and have a green tea with you. So that would be like a supportive friend group, in a sense that, like, even if they don't still care about the thing that you care about, they recognize that you care about it. And because they care about you in a way that is stable and willing to sacrifice and to accommodate for you, they're willing to meet you halfway, to honor that thing that you care about, even if they don't care about it themselves. But I'm sensing that in this case, this friend group isn't really like that. And instead of, like, you know, doing the self-sacrificial thing of accommodating you, they're instead trying to, like, kind of put you down, to make you feel bad for even, you know, still caring about the thing that they've outgrown, or kind of trying to pressure you that, like, well, this is the new thing that we're doing now, so you should do it with us. And that's kind of the sense that I'm getting, that, like, there's a car. We'll wait for the garbage bin to pass. I'm not sure if they passed or not. So that's kind of the sense that I'm getting here, is that these friends aren't really, they're not good friends in the sense of, like, they wouldn't make the sacrifice for you to accommodate you and your needs and wants and desires. And instead, it's easier if they can, like, get you to shut up about that and just do what they want anyway. And I'm really getting the sense that in this situation, I'm really talking to somebody who's young, and maybe you haven't yet experienced the kind of, like, friend breakup ever before, and it seems like really scary to think about. You know, these were your friends and now they changed and they're not really making you feel good anymore. And maybe everybody in the friend group agrees that you're the problem, making you kind of already start to believe that, wow, maybe I am the problem. But it can really just be, you know, these people, I mean, as you can see here, they all want to go the one way. You want to go your own way. But if you stay here in place, they're gonna pull you along with them in the direction that they want to go, which isn't the direction that you want to go. And I think that you will, you know, realize that and push back against that, against whatever kind of pressure this may be. But you can go your own way. And that doesn't mean that anybody here in this situation is, like, bad and wrong and irredeemable. It just means that, you know, maybe sometimes people kind of grow and they connect really well for a time, and then they kind of grow apart and have to separate because they are no longer a good fit for each other. And if, you know, if there is clear communication, if there is a willingness on both sides to, you know, make a sacrifice to try to accommodate the other person, then, you know, even if you're kind of growing apart, you can still kind of stay close, both doing your own thing, but with the bond still existing. But I don't get the feeling here that, I get the feeling that you're the only one who's trying to make this accommodation and the other person or people are not. So don't be afraid to go your own way. And it will include, you know, you being lonely for the initial time where you break out of this group. But again, as I've said, there are things that you can do to spend more quality time with yourself, to spend more like intentional alone time with yourself, in the way of, you know, you can journal about what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, what you're going through. You can create anything, really, any kind of art, any kind of hobby, anything that you really enjoy creating. You can just play your favorite playlists and, you know, grab your hairbrush and have the solo concert in your room. You can dance with your dog. You can read a book. You can watch your favorite films. You can do a lot of things, you know, to spend quality time with yourself. It doesn't have to mean that like, oh, I'm gonna be alone and so I'll just be miserable. Like, you might start to feel miserable in the moments when you're alone, but you can still be a good support for yourself through that. You know, if you're starting to feel sad about something, you don't have to like immediately just grab your phone and start scrolling TikTok to kind of block out that feeling and get away from it. You can also ask yourself the question of, okay, what would make me feel more comfortable in this moment? And maybe the answer is, you know, a blanket. Maybe the answer is a nice, really warm cup of my favorite tea. Maybe the answer is a walk in the park until I've found a new flower that I've never seen before, or I hear a bird call that I've never heard before. Or maybe the answer is, you know, a talk with my mom or my aunt or my uncle or my other friend that I haven't really spoken to in a while, but that always makes me feel seen. And there's always something that you can do for yourself in any moment, no matter how you're feeling. And if you're feeling a lot, again, also you can use the resources to help yourself. Like, there's a lot of ways to, you know, nurture yourself through a feeling that you can do on your own, that you can like literally, you know, shake out a feeling, or you can cry out a feeling. You can dance out a feeling. You can walk out a feeling. So if you're afraid of being alone in that sense, once you do walk away, or at least like distance yourself from this group, again, it doesn't have to be like, yo, I'm done with all of you, but just to kind of pull back, to make more space for the life that you want to live, to make more space and time to prioritize what you want to do, what your interests are, what, you know, maybe you are into art, maybe you want to write a book and you're surrounded by people who just want to, I don't know, play video games. And both are fine. Video games are also fine. But what's not fine is if, you know, maybe they're kind of pulling you back in the sense of anytime you try to talk about the book that you're writing or the story that you're thinking about, they're like begrudgingly kind of listening to you and not really engaging with it. Or maybe when you talk about the book that you want to write, they're going to tell you like, yeah, like you're going to write a book. Like, or something like, yeah, and who's going to read that? You know, people don't read these days anymore. So like, it's really stupid to write a book because like everything is like AI now. So why would you even want to write a book or something like that? That's like, you know, any kind of situation where they're taking the wind out of your sails. And the thing is, like, if you stay in this group, you're just going to feel alone with them. Whereas if you distance yourself from this group and make more meaningful time for yourself and for your interests, you will first of all practice that sense of like, I am alone now, but I am being good company to myself. You know, like I am now trying to be the friend to myself that I wish I had. You know, like I'm now gonna hype myself up about my book and the 200 words I've written today in the way that I would like a friend to hype me up. I'm gonna now go and get up at 6 a.m. and go to that gymnastics training, even though it's really so warm and cozy in my bed, because I know that like a person who supported me in this dream would be like, yo, do it, wake up, get up, go get that training done. And what this will happen, what this will make or create for you is first that you will feel more comfortable being alone. You will start to be able to be alone without being lonely. And second, you will now have this free space, physical and time space and emotional space, that you can find new people that better fit in the activities that you're doing. You know, like if you, for example, you want to write the book, you join a library and you maybe go and write your book there a lot. And maybe you can get kind of connected with other people who are maybe writing their own book at the library, or maybe who aren't writing a book, but who are really passionate about reading. And as such will be much more interested in hearing about your story and understanding what you're talking about when you share all the little details of what you're writing, and who are really excited to hear about it. Maybe at your gymnastics trainings, you will meet new people who are also just as passionate about gymnastics as you are. It will just, the more that you prioritize the things that you really want to achieve and want to spend your time doing, the more you're kind of carving out that space for yourself, allowing other people to also fit, that are a better fit for you. And kind of, I do see that as being the main outcome. As you can see, like this cat is alone. The cat is, there's not a single other creature on the card, but she's sleeping with her heart full. So she doesn't mind it. She's happy. She's very content with where she is, because what she's doing is making her heart full. So I do see that you're already kind of going towards it. So maybe this is just a kind of confirmation that, you know, you're not wrong for choosing to distance yourself from people that make you feel bad, or that make you question if the things that you want are foolish. I think you're already kind of doing that, and I hope that this just serves then as confirmation that you are on the right path. I think also one thing I would mention as like an unexpected thing, something that you don't see coming, is somebody speaking out about this, like the truth that you have kept hidden, or the truth that you have silenced in yourself. Somebody else will speak it, and now whatever this may be, maybe that will be the like breaking point for you. Maybe that will be the thing that like wakes you up and gets you to like, you know what, screw this gang, like I'm not even, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm getting the sense that this might be someone who is either part of the friend group and is kind of secretly feeling in the same way that you are, or somebody who's like adjacent to the friend group. So somebody who's maybe like on the outside of the friend group, but will, you know, say their piece, or they will reveal the secret. that will be kind of the moment where you're like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm walking away from this. But you will be victorious in the end. Not like you won't be victorious over them, because it's not about that. It's not about you like coming out on top against these people. You will just come out on top on your own, in the sense of like you will choose yourself. You will choose to prioritize your desires, your goals, your dreams. And slowly over time, as you kind of explore doing more of this alone time in a healthy, fulfilled way, you will really start to feel grounded and solid and set down a really good base for your future moving forward, in the sense of like you will reaffirm to yourself that what you want matters and that your dreams are important. Like, and in a way it will seem, you know, once some time has passed and you have really affirmed this to yourself, it may seem, you know, you may look back and be like, how did I ever doubt if my dreams were my dreams leading me to the right place? Like, how did I ever doubt that? But it will just be proof of that you have set down your feet, like your feet firmly on the ground. And actually, when I say feet, this is so interesting. This queen, she once had oh my god, this fits so well, I can't. She once had a nasty fall because I was so desperate to keep her on me at all times that I had kept her in a really shallow pocket. And she fell out, she broke her feet off, these front two paws. But I glued them back on together, and very, very well, I would say. You can barely even make out nowadays the crack. But I think it fits so well symbolically again, because it was my desperate idea to have her, like to hold on to her at all times, that ended up hurting her and ended up breaking off the feet that she grounds herself with to the, like, that with which she stands on her own. But now she is healed and she has moved past it, and in such a way that you can barely even tell that there ever was a breakage there to begin with. So I think also that symbolically really fits well with this kind of story of, you know, maybe you're holding on to someone or a group of people at any cost because you just feel that you need to be attached to them. But maybe that's what's hurting you. Maybe that's what's like cutting off your roots, in a sense that you don't feel at home with yourself anymore. But if you do remove yourself, you will very easily plant yourself back down in such a way that, you know, it will be almost impossible to tell that there ever was a breakage in the first place. Okay, so for the younger person watching this video, picking this pile, I would leave it here. I will try to also interpret these cards in justice. I'm not even sure what I would say, honestly. Like, this was so kind of complete. I guess this story really wanted to come out so specifically So if you are the younger person watching this, I will keep it, I will stop it here, but just, you know, keep on keeping on. If you'll never go wrong if you choose what you truly want and value and desire. I hope this helped, and just keep going. Just keep going and shine on. Bye. Hello. If you chose pile number 3, or this signifier of this little funky Cuban toy cat, I don't know if I got this from Cuba. Definitely. It's I think it's paper mache. But if you chose this, then this will be the reading for you. Let's see what we have in store. And we can ask Bast, what feline wisdom would you impart upon pile number 3 today? What does pile number 3 most need to hear from a cat? Ooh. Okay, I'll set it like this. Let me see if we're in frame. Oh, we're not. We're not really in frame. Okay, that's good. Wow, that's a lot of court cards. Okay, I'm hearing the song. You can go your own way, go your own way. I don't know the artist, but it's like a classic rock song. Well, let's start from where you're at. Definitely you're going your own way, right? And I think this can be a myriad of situations. It can be from a job, from a relationship, a romantic or a platonic relationship. But what's certain is that you are walking away from it. You're creating distance from this. Now, seeing how the problem that you crossed by is 3 whole full unopened bags of kitty treats, I would say that perhaps this was something that was building for a long time. If it's a job, then maybe you were feeling the stress of it kind of pile up over time. Or if it's a relationship or a situation, it's something that, again, like a lot of smaller conflicts stacking up with each other over time. I'm feeling kind of like the act of walking away was maybe like a momentary kind of, you just snapped, you just realized you have to end this, you have to get out of here. And now that the dust has kind of settled, I think you're maybe feeling some regret, maybe feeling some, maybe not regret, but maybe more a sense of fear, a sense of, if before walking away, all you could see were the bad things that were kind of pushing you to walk away, to leave this behind. Now that you walked away, all you can look back on are the good things, the things that may have been working, or at least were giving you some kind of need fulfillment or some kind of benefit. And it feels like maybe some big shakeup kind of led to this moment, but now you're left with your thoughts. And now that you're thinking back on the situation, you're beginning maybe to kind of ruminate on it too much, to overthink it. I'm feeling kind of the example of that this was a relationship, and also the fact that we have all of these court cards also might suggest that. All of these different actors, right? It feels like you were sure that this was the right choice for you, like out of a self-preservation in the moment. But now you don't yet have that strong base that will help you to kind of pull yourself through this very gracefully on your own. And so now maybe all these doubts are seeping in as like, well, at least it was, a partner that I had, at least I wasn't, spending my nights alone, at least they listen to me sometimes. What if nobody will, again, love me like they did or treat me like they did? What if I don't find anybody? I'm not getting a very strong sense of like low self-esteem from you, but I do feel like you see yourself as very eccentric, or I don't want to say weird, but that might be a word that people have used about you when trying to make you feel bad or get a rise out of you. So I don't think that necessarily you feel like you're completely unworthy of love, and that, this one person, even if they did treat you in a way that made you want to go your own way, you might feel like that was your one chance for someone to kind of tolerate or to connect with someone as eccentric as you are, which, I mean, it's really statistically impossible, because there's so many weirdos out there in the world, in the best possible sense and in the worst, and everything in between. So I'm getting a sense that like maybe this was in your mind, this was like your one big shot at having a stable relationship. Or I'm also getting a kind of sense of a sort of sunken cost fallacy. Like maybe this was a relationship that you were in for a really long time, or that was really intense in a way that you kind of started picturing your whole future with this person, and now without them it seems like, there is no future, because it was so ingrained in your mind that they would be part of it, that now it's kind of like, it seems like it's all up in the air. Which is, it's a normal way to feel after spending either a significant amount of time with someone by your side, or just having a really intense relationship with someone who becomes your everything. I'm also getting the sense that this could be perhaps a friend from a long time ago, somebody that has really seen you through it all, you know, has seen you in a lot of different versions of yourself, a lot of different states. And maybe over the years, the two of you have always been very able to easily, you know, meet each other kind of where you're at. And so now this separation feels like especially kind of, how would I say, heartbreaking in a way that's maybe getting you to question the validity of your decision of putting this distance between you. Because maybe you're thinking like, well, if we could meet each other through everything before, how is it possible that this time it's so different? How is it possible that this time, you know, we've reached a point like a river that we cannot bridge? And there is a sense of sadness through it, which is fine. It's normal. It's expected to grieve any person leaving your life, be it leaving to leave beyond the veil or just leaving from your life. And I'm sensing still a lot of longing from you, in the sense of like, you know, maybe if, you know, I swallow a few things to keep myself quiet on, I let a few things slide, maybe they do the same, maybe we can kind of, you know, still make it work. I think what you're not realizing at this current moment, because you are kind of caught up in all of this rumination, is that kind of this relationship, this energetic tie, has been cut. So this really, the tie between these two people has been severed already. And it's probably, I feel kind of that it wasn't just you, you know, leaving, walking away, or deciding to distance yourself. That was the severance. It does feel like, you know, a thick knot that kind of frayed over time, and maybe what was left was just hanging on by a thread when you decided to cut it. Another thing that I think you're not really yet aware of, I won't say that there's no going back. There's never gonna be a reconnection of any sort with this person. But it's one of those things where, I don't know if you've ever had really a breakup like that, where you know it has to end, but you know that if only a handful of things were different, it could still be good. And so maybe you are breaking up, but somewhere in the back of your mind is still the hope that, you know, those handful of things will change and then you'll get back together, romantically or platonically, it doesn't matter. But for that to happen, both sides have to be on the same page of not just wanting that to happen, but being able to understand where the problems arose in the other person's behavior and viewpoint, as well as their own. And sometimes people just are not synced to have that happen at the time where it is you know, where they might want it. So I see kind of that, yeah, you did walk away from this, but secretly you're still hoping that maybe it's really fresh. You know, maybe it's really still kind of, maybe it's not fresh like temporally, but for you, for you energetically, it's still very fresh. You still feel very kind of raw from it. So I see that a lot of this longing is kind of, you know, maybe you're hoping that the other person, now that you finally put your foot down and left, that now the other person, like that will be their wake-up call. That will be their, the push that they needed to suddenly fully hear you and understand you and understand everything that you were trying to kind of get across to them. And then the magic change that you want to happen will happen, and you will be able to go right back to how it was. Which is not, like, I'm not shaming you for that. I've had breakups like that too, but it is just important to be mindful of it. Because the advice for you in this situation is that already by choosing to go your own way, as we've said, you're setting down good, strong foundations. And, you know, it could be foundations for your sense of self-worth, your sense of self-trust. Maybe this was a little bit of a not very healthy situation where you had to kind of, you know, dim yourself a lot in order to keep the peace in certain situations. More so, I'm also kind of getting a little bit of a vibe of enmeshment. If you know what that is, it's kind of when two people, and this again can be romantic and platonic, where two people who don't have maybe originally very strong senses of self and self-worth begin to kind of develop very closely together, in a sense that that they are kind of becoming unable to, for example, regulate their own emotions without the help of the other person, unable to how would I say, to process things happening within them or in their lives without the input of the other person, without, you know, they begin to rely on each other, which isn't bad inherently, but they rely on each other in such a way that they cannot function apart from each other anymore. Maybe even their kind of personality traits begin to be kind of intertwined. They just become attached to one another so tightly to the point of detriment of their personal identity, stability in their personal identities. And maybe it's a situation with, we can also say codependency in a way. Where are you going, kitty? So already from a situation like that, that could maybe even further intensify this sense of looking back and longing, because maybe it just became a little bit too much, it became a little bit too intense, maybe it became apparent that this wasn't healthy for either of you. But maybe you were just in this moment more willing, to kind of get out from this situation. But now that you're out of it, it kind of feels like you lost a part of yourself because you were so intertwined with this person. And that can feel then like an even greater loss because not only have you lost the person next to you, but also part of, because you also feel like you've lost a part of yourself. But what you don't realize, I think, is what an act of self-love it was to walk away from something like this. What an act of self-preservation, and what an act of self-choosing, let's say. With the king and the queen in the line of consciousness, I think at this moment you are not really yet able to see that this was something that will really enable you to kind of get on your own 2 feet. Something that is already kind of a seed or setting down of a good base for you to become your own person. For you to get to know yourself on a deeper level with yourself, with just yourself, with no need for another's input. And I'm not saying here, of course, humans are social creatures. We need to have each other's input and help and lean on each other. That's fine. But it becomes a problem if you cannot do it on your own without like 100% the input of others. It grounds you in your sense of self, in your sense of self-worth, when you start to ask what your goals are, what your own dreams are, what your values are. What are things that you as a person can accept, what you as a person find to be admirable traits, what do you consider to be important values, and how you can bring them to life through your everyday existence. And perhaps, let me just have a sip of water. I'm sensing here, as I say values, that stands out as very important to me. So perhaps there was some kind of, maybe you are now shifting your values. You are deciding to prioritize other things. You are deciding that perhaps, I don't know, if you used to really enjoy gossiping and it made you feel better about yourself, putting other people down. And maybe this was like a point where you and this person could bond over. But now maybe you're starting to see that that's maybe not a very healthy way to make yourself feel better. And now you kind of don't want to do it anymore, which is now making a bit of a rift with you and this person, because it was something that you really used to bond over. Or maybe it's a kind of hobby that you used to really enjoy, that again now you're feeling that you're ready to put down or to set down a little bit and do something else with your time. But because it was kind of a cornerstone for you and this person to bond over, you're maybe feeling pressured, like you have to keep doing this thing that you're feeling ready to kind of set down and pick up something else, because you don't want to let this person down. I'm hearing specifically video games, so maybe you spent a lot of time gaming with this person and maybe it's becoming a bit tiring for you, but you feel pressure to keep it up so that you wouldn't lose this channel of communication and connection with them, for example. And what you choosing to honor yourself and your new emerging dreams, or your changing desires and priorities, what that does is it shows to yourself that you are kind of slowly setting up just some kind of boundaries around what you want and what you don't want in your life anymore. And that is setting a really good foundation for any kind of future growth of you as a person. Because when we live in accordance to our authentic desires, as close as we can in the moment, of course, as life is just a series of moments, the closer that we live to, let's say, our truth, the easier things will seem to us. So if you are, for example, maybe you really loved to game. Maybe that really was your truth at one point. And it was very easy. You felt very light. Every time you would sit down at the computer, you felt content, you felt happy because you were going to do this thing that you love with your friend or lover whom you love. But now, as your kind of truth is shifting, but you're still doing the same thing, it's maybe feeling more like a chore. It's maybe feeling now as like a responsibility that you have to keep up with, rather than something that you love to do. And maybe that kind of sense of pressure is, I wouldn't say that being pressured to play video games is what pushed you to walk away. But perhaps it was a lifestyle choice, you know, perhaps it was, you both were in a kind of place where you didn't maybe care much about your future, and you kind of took each day as it came, and you had a very like cavalier attitude towards life. You didn't really, either of you didn't stress much, and just kind of took it as it went. And it felt very freeing to live like that, to not kind of care too much about how it all was unfolding. But then perhaps something personal happened in your life, perhaps some kind of family shift, perhaps some tragic occurrence. And it doesn't even have to be tragic, it can just be some kind of shift that then force you to change your perspective. And not change your perspective necessarily on this person, but just change your perspective on your life. And maybe now you're feeling more of a sense of like, I want to do something more long-term with my time. I want to pursue more, how would we say, more consistently a dream that I have. I don't want it to just be a dream anymore. I want to actually go out and make it happen. And maybe it was that shift that you were feeling with this person, because they didn't have that kind of catalyst to kind of shake them up. Maybe they're still content to live life in the way that they used to. But now, if you want to pursue life the way that you want, and they keep pursuing life the way that they want, nobody's at fault, but it will kind of lead you apart. And maybe because you both were so used to being together and on the same path, it can kind of feel like you're letting each other down, or you're letting go of each other out of a selfish desire, which I don't think is true. It's just people sometimes can grow apart. And it doesn't mean that they won't ever grow back together. But I think it is important that we, you know, if a shift of this kind happened, and a rift of this kind happened between you, I would say that it's in your both of yours best interest to look at where you want to go. You know, like, what do you want to do? It can also be the opposite situation of maybe, you know, you and this person both knew from like forever ago that you want to be lawyers, and you went to law school together and you studied everything of that together, and you guys were just about, maybe you're prepping for your bar exam and you realize that you actually don't want to be a lawyer. You've kind of had a sense for it, you've had a taste of it, you realize like, wow, this is not a fit for me at all. And maybe, you know, maybe first of all, you're scared with the idea of like, well, if I'm not going to be a lawyer, then what the hell am I going to do? What's the other thing? Maybe you don't know yet what the other thing is, because if you've been fixated on one thing for so long, it can take a while to kind of peel your eyes off of it and look around with interest that might, you know, like latch onto something else. And maybe, you know, maybe this other person cannot understand, like, why would you not want to be a lawyer? Like, that's the thing that we were talking about all this time. Like, what, maybe they think that you're making a wrong choice. Maybe they think that you're making a wrong choice because they are really worried about, you know, your future. But they can't understand what you mean when you say, I really do not see myself doing this at all. Like, I wake up in cold sweat when I'm thinking about that I will do this for the rest of my life. You know, maybe you say something like that and that's your truth, but their truth is so different that they just cannot understand it. So maybe, you know, maybe they're pressuring you to kind of reconsider, which maybe is pushing you even further away and making you question yourself. I don't feel like that they're doing it from a really bad place. I think it's just that, you know, your truths at this time are just starting to grow apart. And the choice of honoring your truth, especially when it's changing in such a drastic way that's making you kind of want to shift and stop and reassess of like, okay, what am I even going after? Like, what, you know, I've been doing all of these tasks so consistently, but now I'm wondering, like, they just keep bringing me closer to a goal that I don't even know if I want anymore. And making the choice to listen to your gut and to listen to what your body is telling you, what your physical sensation is when you think about this thing, and choosing to honor that choice, that's setting such a good, strong base for you to grow further into this new person that you are becoming. And maybe you will start to pursue something completely different. And maybe in pursuing of that something completely different, you will find that new thing that you actually were meant to be all along. And maybe you won't find it immediately, but maybe you'll find some new thing out about yourself. You'll find out, okay, you know, maybe, I don't know, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. Like, I want to go study graphic design. And maybe you will see yourself as like a visual artist. Maybe you will see yourself as a photographer. And maybe you will try photography and you will figure out that you don't actually really enjoy that all that much. But in the midst of trying out photography, you will maybe come across somebody who does video production, and they'll maybe show you a few things about editing. And then you'll figure out, like, oh my God, I actually really like editing, for example, or anything like that. And the advice for you is to just keep kind of heeding that inner voice, that inner pull of, I don't want this, I want this. And maybe the thing that this that you want will also change over time. But you can still follow it then to a new place. I guess there's this idea, I saw that text post on Tumblr a while back, that there's this idea that if something is really worthwhile, then it has to last forever. Like if you, for example, if you were married to someone, but then you grew apart or something happened between you and then you got a divorce, that's a failed marriage. Or if you opened up a coffee shop and you ran it for a few years and then realized that it's a little bit stressful and you don't really want to do it anymore, and then you close it up, then that's a failed business. So the idea is kind of that the success or successfulness of something correlates with, will you do it consistently until you die? And I don't think that that's as well was the point of this Tumblr text post. Like, that doesn't necessarily have to first be the case. That's true for a lot of things. And second, it doesn't reflect the changing nature of human beings as a whole, because we're always learning more about ourselves, about the world. We're always changing in some way under these new knowledges. And yes, there are some things within us that will never change, but there are a lot of things within us that will change and will change many times. So this idea that, you might walk away from law school and then start, take a course in photography, and then realize that, okay, maybe I don't actually really like photography, but maybe what I thought I liked about photography was just that I really like to go on these beautiful walks in nature and just take in the scenery in front of me. And then maybe understanding that desire will lead you towards painting, or in a different direction, maybe you will focus less on the beauty of the scenery and more on the part of being in nature, and maybe you will then be drawn to volunteer at a national park or something like that. But the point is that if you kind of do your best to consistently honor and give yourself to that pull, it can never lead you astray. It can only lead you kind of, even if sometimes in a really meandering way, but it can always lead you closer to yourself. And that's the second part of what this, setting this firm base will be for you, what you're going towards and not even realizing, is that the more that you feel comfortable, honoring yourself in this way of like, okay, I tried, I gave my all to law school. And I don't mean here like just quitting stuff willy-nilly. I don't mean like, I took one pottery class and I kind of had fun with it, but then the dish that I made wasn't perfect on the first try, and then I got insecure and then I never went again. I don't mean that. I mean like, okay, I'm interested in this pottery and I'm gonna do my best to give it a shot. And if it makes me feel insecure in some way, then I will deal with that to the best of my ability. I will remind myself how much of a learning experience every single mistake is, rather than a failure. And I will remind myself that it was something that I felt called towards. And already as such, if I'm giving myself to it, I'm winning. I'm already succeeding. So now I meandered a little bit. The more that you honor what you want and go for it and give it your all, even if it starts to change, even if it requires you to make adjustments, even if it requires you to stop and to say, okay, I thought that I liked this thing, but actually I just really liked this other thing kind of adjacent to it. Maybe I should go with that instead. The more you will feel secure in walking your own path, the more that you will have that real sense of self-trust that comes from self-knowing, that comes from knowing that you will, that you will honor yourself, that you won't force yourself to stick with something that you see isn't good for you, in knowing that you will allow yourself to try something that is calling you, even if it's scary. And that is something that's not only going to give you a sense of feeling really valuable for the person that you are, and even give you a sense of starting to get kind of recognized by the people around you for the qualities that you have. But it will make you feel very comfortable walking this path. It will make you feel, you won't maybe fear being the odd one out anymore. You will have this greater sense of stability in yourself that will make you kind of see the world in a way that's like, okay, maybe I am not perfectly fitting in with all of these other people around me in my circle, but that doesn't matter, because I know why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I love it. I'm going after this thing because it lights me up. And that's so worthwhile. And as you can see, both of these characters are kind of, that's even really interesting. So as you can see with the lines, that the fish is really the fish is running out of there. Like the fish realizes it's the odd one out. It's the only one that's kind of different from the rest. And maybe the pressure became so much that it has to run out of there, just to get away from there. But then following that, the cat is still the odd one out, but now there's no rush. There's no stress about it. There's no nerves. The cat's just doing its own thing. It's not even bothered by what these people are doing. Not because it considers them to be worthless or something, but because she's just doing her own thing. And that, you're encouraged to keep setting down these bases, these ideas of, maybe you are in a circle of, or maybe you come from a country or cultural background where people, for example, eat a lot of meat. Maybe meat is a staple of every meal, and you want to become a vegetarian, and maybe it's really bothering you. What will people think, and how will they treat you? Maybe it's really difficult to then even plan out a meal plan for yourself that still abides by your cuisine. But if it's something that's important to you, if it's something that you feel is really worthwhile in this moment, and if you go for it, if you choose to honor it, if you show yourself first that it is important to you, you're strengthening that bond first with yourself. And secondly, yeah, of course, people are going to ridicule you for it a little bit at the start. Most heavy meat eating societies do have that kind of view of vegetarians. But if people see that you are firm in your decision because it matters to you, their criticism won't really get to you so much, because you'll know why you're doing it for. And maybe if later on, maybe you were very vegetarian for a long while, but maybe you're noticing that, you know, it's not affecting your health the best. Maybe you're noticing that, you know, it's not just that you had a few cravings of meat, but you are really feeling kind of weakened by it. And maybe then the choice of, you know, honoring yourself and your truth would be, okay, maybe I will become pescatarian. You know, maybe I still want to do my best to avoid meat, but I will, because I see that I have a need for it, because I see that I feel worse than I did before, I will kind of make a compromise with myself and I will eat fish. Or I will even, maybe I will eat meat sometimes. So just to kind of, because it's a very, the brain wants to determine stuff. The brain wants to make neat boxes and package stuff in it and put the lid on and be done with it, because that's one of the mechanisms of keeping you safe. If you're in a predictable state and a predictable environment, you are safe according to your brain, because then it can calculate in advance all the variables and doesn't have to worry about anything. But if you want to grow and change, you will have to take things out of boxes and put them in other boxes, or maybe throw out the boxes altogether and get shelves where you kind of switch up the feng shui of the place on a more semi-regular basis. And it would be easier for everyone involved if that act of like honoring your truth and honoring yourself would be like a one and done. You made this one switch and now you're done. But it's more like a continued long-term curious conversation with yourself. It's like if you go to a therapist and he checks in with you to see how you've been doing these past few weeks, or how have you been doing the previous week. It's kind of like that, only for the rest of your life. And that's the conversation that then brings you to this sense of being the reigning sovereign in your life, at least in all of the areas that you can control. I think that is something that you're hoping to become, the reigning sovereign of your life, in a sense of like that maybe you're wishing for greater autonomy, and maybe you're afraid at the same time that that's not for you, which isn't true, because it's for everyone. They just do have to go after it. But if you don't know how to go after it, the choice really can be as simple as making that one promise of, I will do my best to keep the channel of communication open with myself. And I see kind of what I see you going for. I do see this rift between you and this person, not necessarily deepening, but I don't see it coming back closer. Not at this point in time that we're, like, let's say not in some future, not in some near future, maybe 10 years down the line or 5 or something. Energetically, not right now. I see that you are kind of going at shaky legs at first, but you are choosing to get to know yourself more as a person. You are choosing to, you know, start grabbing hold of the reins of your life, even if, you know, sometimes they are still kind of slipping, even if they're making your hands calloused and you're not really managing to steer the carriage very smoothly at the start. But I see that you will make this commitment, and maybe it will look very janky at first, and you will feel a lot of the time like you don't really know what you're doing. but you're already on the steps, on the walk, let's say, towards this sense of, I feel more like in control of my life and honoring the true path that I want to walk. And I see that you will be, for some time, that you will be kind of looking back towards this person. I see that you both will be, how do I say, it might take some time to heal. And I don't think you're ever going to forget them, and they're not going to forget you either. I don't think that there will be a contact for the time being between you, but you will be, definitely you will be thinking of each other a lot. But I think it will be from a point of awareness of, why this kind of had to happen, why this had to separate. And maybe some longing, maybe some grief over, why couldn't it have still happened some other way. But I think what you don't see coming in this is that, you kind of separating, creating some space for yourself, which will give you kind of room to expand and breathe a little bit more deeply. That space will also give them the same space to perhaps, also expand and also breathe more deeply. And so in a way, even though right now maybe it doesn't seem like it, but this kind of little bit of distance will allow the both of you on your own separate autonomous paths, but it will allow both of you to become more of yourselves. So, it's okay to grieve, it's okay to long, it's okay to curse fate for not turning out different, but you're already doing something good by choosing to heed your inner call and your inner truth. And if you just keep that line of dialogue open, that line of mono dialogue with yourself, it can take you really far. So just keep walking. And I'm gonna leave it here. Thank you for watching, and I hope it helped. Bye. Hello. So if you chose pile number 4, or the signifier of this beautiful green pin of the goddess Bast, this will be your reading. This will be what feline wisdom can you benefit from hearing right now? So Bast, could you tell us please, what feline wisdom would you share with pile 4 today? What wisdom can they benefit from learning at this moment? Okay, are we rolling? Yes, okay, love to see it. Fall out of the room because I'm not sure anymore. Let's see if we're all in frame. This maybe a little bit. This is okay. Wow. I am feeling so good about these cards. I have to say, and this is just personal, this is just for me, for a first time making a video of this kind, I am so happy that the last pile ends on a note like this, because this is just such, I feel so invigorated looking at these cards. I'm seeing right away, so if you're into tarot, I mean, if you're looking at a card reading video on YouTube, you're probably into tarot. You know then probably the card of the Hermit. And in a way, I'm getting very much that this is, I'm talking to somebody who has been in some sort of hermit mode for a long time and is now kind of starting to like burst with energy that's just waiting to take them out of it, to like launch them out of that chrysalis where they were slowly and painstakingly transforming into like from a caterpillar to a pile of goo. And now I feel like I'm talking to somebody who is still kind of in the chrysalis, but who now is realizing that, oh shit, I'm not a pile of goo anymore. I'm a butterfly. And I'm in my cocoon and I got these wings, and I'm just now it's gonna be like breaking out of the cocoon time. I'm really sensing that you are, you know, maybe you were aware that you were doing a lot of inner work. Maybe you don't really feel exactly like, or no, let me rephrase that. I think that you were a caterpillar and you were in that cocoon for a while, and you were a pile of goo for a while. And now that you kind of like, it's almost like you just woke up one day and realized, oh my God, I have wings on my back. What? And I think that when you envisioned this moment, you kind of, maybe you had a sense that like, it will just feel so, you know, like empowering right away. You will just flap your wings and fly away, and you will have this like sense of confidence. And now that you have actually woken up and you have the wings, but you still feel kind of lost and confused, maybe now you're thinking like, oh my God, did I do it wrong? Like, I thought this would feel better. Like, I thought I would feel better about this. And I mean, it's good, it's great. I'm not complaining that I have wings, but like, what do I do now? What's the next step? I'm also getting the kind of sense of, you know, for a lot of these self-care things, and I mean self-care in the really true, deep, important, like deep self-care sense, not like I put on a face mask and I'm watching Netflix. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but if that's the only thing you do for self-care, then you're not really caring for yourself in a sustainable way, let's say. I mean self-care in the sense of like trying to change your sleeping schedule, even though it really sucks, or trying to eat healthier, even though it's been kind of a drag to try to figure out all the recipes and buy all the groceries and do it 3 times a day forever. Or reframe your beliefs, even though you know, it took a lot of time and effort, like to catch every time that you're, you know, maybe verbalizing a really nasty, mean thought about yourself and then try to reframe it with a positive one. It's with those kind of things, it's often that like you have to do them for a while without any result before you start to see the result. Let me just check if we're, oh yeah, we're rolling. Why am I so paranoid about us not rolling? Maybe that's, maybe that's also kind of how you feel. Like maybe that's also what you're going through. Like you're doing all these good things. You're putting yourself first in a way that's healthy for you. You're maybe daring to do the things that take you out of your comfort zone, that made you feel not that made you feel, but that it bring you closer to your dreams and to your goals. But it's still kind of new, you know, it's still kind of fresh. So maybe you're still kind of, you know, just like looking over your shoulder every 10 minutes, wondering like, is anybody gonna stop me? Like, are you guys seeing this? Am I allowed to do this? And like, yes, yes, you are. You absolutely are. Like, it's like we think that moment of like the Joker corresponding with the Fool and with the Queen, the most comfy queen in existence, as the kind of problem crossing you over at this moment. I think there is an expectation that that idea of like going through the gates from your old life into a new life is going to be some kind of like one-time thing. You know, you have this big transformation and you do the one big thing differently, and then everything is different and you're this completely like other person, and it's amazing. But it's actually, you know, the leap of faith towards your dreams is not, it's not just this one big leap. It's a myriad of really small continuous leaps. So I think what you're kind of going through right now is that like you're doing everything right. You're doing so well. I think you really put your best foot forward towards nurturing yourself, towards taking care of yourself. Maybe you went to therapy for a while and are now like coming to a point where you're feeling comfortable to try to, you know, stop for the time being and make it on your own. Maybe you are oh, I lost my thought. Point being, I think that you are just at the beginning of like, you know, welcome, today is the first day of the rest of your life, but in a good way. You just expected it to look different. And now it's kind of this sense of, I don't think that you're uneasy. I just think that you're kind of wondering like, is this, did I do it? Did I do the shift? Like, did I do it right? Is this how it's supposed to feel? Like, and it is how it's supposed to feel at the beginning. It's definitely going to take you a little bit of time to kind of feel comfortable in this role. You know, to feel like, wow, I guess this is my new shape. This is my new form. This is what I look like now. It's going to take some getting used to. But I see that you're going to handle it so well. Like you're going to be swarmed with opportunities. And when I say opportunities, I really mean anything that could mean. I mean that it could be connection to new people. not necessarily just romantic. It could be like you just happen to be at the right place at the right time to meet somebody who you really click with and who you really connect with and who kind of shares the same new goals and values that you've set for yourself. Or, you know, maybe you've had a creative project that you wanted to make for a long time, but you were held back by like a lot of factors of maybe self-doubt, maybe feeling exhausted from the other obligations in your life. But now after this shift, after this restructuring, after this, you know, taking the time to go inwards and nurture yourself and put some things on pause so that you could kind of reroute the resources of energy towards something else. Maybe now you're realizing, okay, I want to prioritize that creative project now, and I'm feeling ready to do it. And maybe now that you start doing it, something that maybe seems daunting or seemed like too big of a bite to chew, and just now it happens that you meet somebody who could really help you along with that project, who can collaborate with you on that project and give you a really good idea and sense of direction or guidance. Or oh, our candle is going out. That means I've talked for way too long. It's all right. We are ready for that. Thank you, little candle. Now this one will take over. And isn't that also kind of symbolic of what I'm trying to say? You know, like one chapter is just finished, it's just behind you, and now a new flame can start up. And this candle is whole. This candle has very, very, very long left to burn. Not in the sense of like life and death stuff. I mean in the sense of like, kind of like you restocked, you know, you retracted your sap, and now you're ready to, well, to use the tree analogy, I guess you're ready to secrete again, but please don't take it like that. Poor choice of words. But you're definitely ready to fly, and you are not only ready to fly, you are willing to fly. Because I think this process of being inside yourself and doing all the inner work and putting in all the hours into self-nurturing without seeing the results for a long time and accepting that that's how it has to be and being a pile of goo before growing your wings. I think you're a little bit tired of that. I think you're like, okay, can we be done with this? Can we be like finished with this process? And so with that in mind, I think kind of what you, to connect the both of what you don't see coming and what is the advice for you, I think with that in mind, you might be kind of inclined to, as you're walking, navigating this new life, this new sense of, you know, feeling really good with who you are and not then following it up with guilt, or not having that good feeling be just a manic episode or something like that. I think that in this process of like still kind of looking over your shoulder to see with like, is this it? Am I doing it? Am I managing it? Should I be like, is it good? Is it bad? You might have a tendency to kind of look at that as, this is my old overthinking pattern. That means I'm not quite healed yet. That means that I am not as ready as I think I am, and I should actually start to doubt this good feeling that I have. Or it can just kind of mean that, you know, as your, let's say, new muscles haven't yet gotten so strong, your old muscles kind of want to like, you know, pull you back to kind of be like, oh, let us handle it. Like, we're bigger, we can do it. Like, give it back to us. And it's just kind of to remind yourself that the way that you build this stronger, stable sense of self is to fully go for the new, to fully go towards that new life that you wanted. You know, because we can see it as kind of like a training montage. You know, you're in your room journaling furiously, and you're maybe with your therapist, talking and crying, and you're, you know, ferociously making a healthy batch of oatmeal for the week or stuff like that. And while you're kind of doing all of these, let's be honest, boring but good things, maybe you were fantasizing about, you know, I'm gonna get my new super fit body, and then I'm gonna go to that new climbers gym that I've always wanted to try but always felt too weak for, and I'm gonna climb that, I don't know, how do we say that in English, like the middle difficulty green trail, and I'm gonna feel so good, I'm gonna slay that climb, or I'm gonna, you know, reach out to this festival to offer my cooperation with them, or to offer to volunteer in exchange for, I don't know, invaluable knowledge that will then connect me to the right people and all of that. As you're kind of in your room journaling and munching on your plain oatmeal, you're maybe fantasizing about all of these things. And in the fantasy, you're always like the peak of this new person that you want to build yourself as. But now when the time comes, and when it's reality and not fantasy, you're not going to be like exactly fully like this most established, confident version of yourself. But that doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. That just means that to bridge that gap between your current reality, where maybe you're not yet feeling so much like, you wouldn't maybe call yourself a queen just yet. Like, maybe you're getting much closer to that idea than you ever were before, but maybe you wouldn't say those words just yet. But how you bridge that gap from being there to being fully like the queen, the life and soul of the party, and being so established and happy with who you are, it's exactly by doing those things that you fantasize about. It's exactly about, you know, going to the climbing gym and getting on your really ugly looking climbing shoes. I'm sorry, they really are ugly. And maybe you come up to the green trail and you look up and suddenly it looks really, really high and really complicated. And suddenly you're aware again of the people that are maybe looking at you, and maybe they're not, but you think that they are. And you don't feel in that moment how you felt while you were fantasizing about it. But the way that you get to feeling like you do in that fantasy is by doing it anyway, is by coming to that green trail and saying, you know what? I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try. Even though now it's looking really, really, really high. And you're going to go for it. And maybe that will be the first time that you ever attempted to climb that green trail. And maybe when you get to somewhere like a third or half of the way, you will get to a point where you really cannot go on any further using just the green trail, if you are familiar with climbing. So you might think, okay, well, you know, I will just use a few of the other trail stones. And that's fine, because it's still the farthest you've ever come in climbing that trail. It's still the closest you've gotten in your physical reality towards this state and feeling. And just kind of keep giving yourself not only that props, But give yourself those chances. Take those chances. Do the things that you were dreaming of coming, dreaming of while you were in your chrysalis phase, while you were in your transformation phase. I can give a personal example right after I have this sip of water. I had kind of a similar, it was like a part of my process that I also went very much inward. I was pretty much just at home and doing my, you know, somatic exercises, breathing exercises, journaling, reading, all of that good, boring stuff. And kind of, you know, maybe writing intentions or saying affirmations or whatever feels good for you in that moment. For me, it was writing things down, and writing down kind of like trying to explore what I'm dreaming of, the kind of states that I'm dreaming of being. Not just like goals of I want to achieve X, Y, Z, but also I want to do more of this. I want to devote more of my time to this. I want to, you know, spend more time feeling like this. And one of the goals on the list, because as I mentioned at the time, I was just really home a lot. I wasn't really going out. One of the things on the list was I want to go to more dancing events. Like I want to go to more parties where I can dance. To me, this means I'm very particular about music. So to me, that means just a few places where I live where, you know, I will kind of look at their schedules and pick out dates when the music is something that I like. And because if I like the music, I will really have such a good time dancing. And as I kind of started going out, well, the first thing I noticed was I could pick out a party. You know, it could be like, I don't know, any party of the genre that I like. And I could write the date in my calendar. I could agree with a friend to go to it, or I could have the idea that I'm going to go alone. And I would look forward to it in the days leading up to it, because I would fantasize about me there feeling like this. And then the day would come and I would be so cozy at home. I would all of a sudden feel so like, you know, maybe I don't even really want to go anymore. Maybe, you know, maybe it won't even be so good. Maybe I just, and in a way that was kind of, for me, I got very comfortable being in the hermit energy. And even though I also had a large drive to get out of it, somehow in these moments, it would always kind of pull me back to like, maybe just let it go. But what I found out was that if I would kind of push through and go to the party, I would always have such a good time. And again, I would get to the party and in my mind's eye, I would enter the place and I would look so good and I would feel so good and I would be so magnetic and so freely moving and dancing and all of that. And then in reality, it would look more like, oh, well, I am like the first or one of the first 3 people there because I came way too early. And the music is really great, but there's like 3 of us in this space. So now I'm feeling more self-conscious dancing to the music, even though I'm enjoying it, because now it's kind of awkward, like, because I'm the only one that's dancing in this room where everybody can see me because there's only the 3 of us. And it would kind of be, you know, I wouldn't immediately get this sense of like, wow, I am the dancing queen and I'm so loving it. Because at the first it would be a little bit janky. It would be a little bit like, this looked a lot more smooth and less awkward in my daydream. But if I would just stick with it, if I would just stick with the sense of like, yeah, but I'm still liking the music, I'm still enjoying the dance, these would be some of the most memorable nights for me, because I would end up having so much fun and dancing so much, and really, really at the end of it, feeling fully like this queen of big stretchies. And that's kind of what I mean when I say, because I see you mentally going after what you want. I see also in your like external reality that opportunities will present themselves to you in whatever way it is that whatever the shift was for you that you want to go towards, the opportunities will meet you. It's just a kind of gentle reminder that, it will look janky at first. It will be a little bit awkward because you're still kind of strengthening your muscles through it. What you don't see is maybe, and this also kind of ties in, I think there's still a fear within you because there's not yet enough distance between you right now and you of the past that you don't want to really be like anymore. And the distance between like you, well, let's put it like this, you of the past that you don't really want to be like anymore, and the perceived distance between you right now and you of the ideal how you want to be, this is much closer than this, right? But what you don't, and I think that might be a source of fear for you, that like if you don't, grind this out enough and fast, that it's gonna catch up to you. It's gonna catch up and pull you back. What you don't see is that even though, yes, temporally, the distance between you and who you were yesterday before you went into your cocoon, maybe in the sense of time, that distance is small. But there's a severance here that it's going to be so hard to ever pull you back to how it was. And that doesn't mean that you won't maybe occasionally, catch yourself slipping back into the old thoughts, the old beliefs, the old patterns of behavior. But I think what you don't understand and what you can't yet perceive because you just emerged from the cocoon is that you will never again, after this process of unmaking yourself and turning into goo, like, you have your wings now. Sure, they're not very strong yet, but you can never again go back to being flightless. Even if it looks really close in the rearview mirror, but you have your wings now. And the only thing that can happen is that you will learn to fly. And sometimes as you learn to fly, as your wings are still developing, you might go fly a little bit and then have to land back down. Maybe you will then fly a lot of it and think that you got it, and then you crash a little bit. But every time that you keep flying, you will fly more steady and further and higher. And the more that you do that, the more that you will, first of all, strengthen all of these new muscles of self-trust and self-belief and valuing and just daring, really just daring to go for the thing. The more you get closer to realizing that you're already embodying this energy. It's just that it's still new. It's like, it's still the fresh coat of paint. It's still kind of drying. And if you're, if you make some scratches or touch the paint, it will leave some little marks right now. It's not a perfect paint job right now, but that doesn't mean that it will ever go back to how it was. And the way that you get to strengthening this sense of, I am really, like we used it in one of the previous reads, I am the sovereign ruler of my life, is by daring to go for it. Dare to bite off more than you can chew. Dare to apply to things that, you know, maybe would have scared the lights out of you, but now you're feeling like, you know, that would have scared me to total paralysis, and now it only scares me a little bit. Go for it. Do it then. And the more of those things that you chomp down on, the more you are filling your soul. The more applications you send towards things that you are truly passionate about, the more you're filling your soul. The more events you go to that pertain to things you love, the more you're filling your soul. The more you mingle with people that share your new goals and values, the more you're filling your soul. And the fuller that your soul feels, the closer you're getting to this, which is your outcome. I see him very much as the emperor, you know, very much as like the really sovereign ruler of his own life in every sense. And that's directly what you're going towards. So even, you know, even if you fear that things will pull you back, that you will fall in a way that you won't be able to get up from again, that you will, you know, that you will slip up and that it will undo all of the work that you have done. That's not going to happen, because that work, that cycle, that chapter, the process of unmaking and remaking is done. It's finished. It's complete. Those doors are closed behind you. You are never going to somehow accidentally, you know, break through them backwards. You are only going to fly higher and higher and further, powered by your full heart and soul. And I'm just so happy. I'm so happy with this energy, and I will leave it here because I have nothing left to say, because you're doing such an amazing job, and you have been doing such an amazing job for probably a really long time. And now, you know, the world is your oyster, and that's it. Just go for it. I hope you like oysters, because that's your world right now. So go and eat it up. And thank you so much for watching. And I will see you, I guess, on top of the world, because that's exactly where you're heading. I hope it helped, and see you next time. Bye.